Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, reacting to some Toronto Raptors news. Riker, the Raptors are making moves, unfortunately for Lorenzo Brown, the G League MVP. You know, our guy at the end of the bench, he's been waived. He's been waived by the team.
What's this man got to do, you know?
He's an MVP.
He's an MVP. He's an MVP. He's like, who's the coach? Or even Dwayne Casey, you know? It seems like on the Raptors, every time somebody gets a big award, they get axed.
Yeah, it's, Lorenzo Brown, he's came out this season, really didn't perform in terms of scoring the ball, especially on the offensive end, but he's a solid defender. You know, I'm sure he'll find a team somewhere, or at least have a successful career over in Europe. But, before we get into how this implies about the Raptors and all those sorts of things, just want to, do you have a favorite Lorenzo Brown moment, Riker, if off the top of your head, or...
I don't. Seeing him out there was always a laugh. There was a couple games where he got some run. You know, he played.
Mm-hmm. He looks like Tory Lanez.
Yeah, he looks like Tory Lanez. We like our players that look like rappers, especially Canadian rappers. Tory Lanez also Canadian.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite? I was gonna say Tory Lanez.
A couple of games ago, he tried to poster Miles Turner. And
was
he the ball straight?
Was he the guy
chest.
that tried to do like 3 behind the back passes in one game?
Oh,
or was that DeLon?
We're bringing up some Lorenzo Brown nostalgia. He's been gone for an hour, and we're listing off some
this
great
is a perfect moment
Lorenzo Brown
in the
moments.
comments. If you remember anything about Lorenzo Brown, if you have any memory of Lorenzo Brown, comment it, shout it out. We'll probably comment it onto a later pod and be like, oh yeah, this was great. Okay, so let us know if you guys remember any moments.
Yeah, regardless, Lorenzo Brown, he's had a great time with the Toronto Raptors. I hope he succeeds. He seemed like a really nice guy in his interviews and all those sorts of things. But, he didn't get too many minutes, so it's not going to impact the team too much. But it's really interesting that this comes now, because reports have come out. We're going to make a video on this dropping in a couple days about how the Raptors are in the market for a playmaker. Kyle Lowry's been out of the lineup. Fred has had his own back trouble. So it's kind of interesting. We waived Kay Felder at the beginning of the season because of some, personal legal issues. So we don't really have – we had a lot of point guard depth coming into the season. We've had a lot of injuries. DeLon Wright's been struggling. And now we decide to waive Lorenzo Brown, who – is not necessarily great, but is a capable NBA player. He's not absolutely atrocious. So what do you see this move? Do you think Masai makes this move without something else up his sleeve, or is it just something that had to be done?
Well, it's possible. It's a big risk just to get rid of him without a backup plan because Kyle Lowry is very unpredictable, of course, like you said, with his injuries. Yeah. And there's nothing to say that both Fred and DeLon had injuries either beginning of this season or last, so it's not to say they can't go down again the same way that Jonas went down or from fatigue like Serge Ibaka is doing. So it'd be interesting to cut the depth or the absolute legs out of the Toronto Raptors, but at the same time he wasn't performing. Maybe there's another guy down the
offensively.
Yeah, offensively, but I can definitely see them. I can definitely see them bundling up and making some sort of chess move, as you may, for a different player around the league. But Masai Ujiri, he's best GM, non-biased, a little biased, but
there's a couple good GMs, but he's definitely up there.
He's definitely up there. He makes solid moves, and everything that he does is calculated. He's out there playing the long game. We're probably getting down to the end of the long game now. We're into the short game territory, but I expect that this won't be the end that we hear of this move. There's going to be some more information come up soon in terms of if a trade is coming or perhaps a new player is being called up. So definitely it's with purpose.
For sure, because if we let Lorenzo Brown stay, he would have had a guaranteed contract for the rest of the year. So we waived him now because we didn't want to pay him that money for the rest of the season. Now we have some flexibility going forward. So we could sign nobody for the next 2 weeks and save money on the tax and all those cap sort of deals. We could have some 10-day contracts guys come in. And Chris Boucher, who's shown, he hasn't gotten some proper run in the league. Yet he hasn't gotten proper NBA minutes in multiple games, but when he goes out there, he's been producing. So we could convert his 2-way contract into a full NBA deal, or we could wait till the buyout deadline and do something similar to what the Sixers did last season and sign a guy with now Lorenzo Brown's roster spot open. There's a lot of things that could happen with this Toronto Raptors team. The first thing I want to talk about is Chris Boucher. do you think that, we haven't seen him play properly? I was a bit skeptical on him coming into the season, but with what he's shown in the games, the small stretches of minutes he's played, he's shown that he can produce and be a capable guy, at least in garbage time. So do you think we should transition him to a full-time NBAer and see what he can do, or should we wait more on Chris Boucher?
The relation here is just that now there's the ability in losing Lorenzo Brown's contract that we can pay Chris Boucher basically with the money that
we can convert him to a full NBA
yeah,
deal.
It's not that the roster spot opens up because it's obviously a 1 in a 5 that we're talking about. Yeah, I mean, you are high on this person, and you've been right and you've been wrong when you really like somebody. I'll bring it up. You've been wrong. You were wrong about Terrence Ross. I was right about that.
Terrence Ross is a beast. No, I was right on Terrence Ross.
He's horrible. I'm glad we got rid of the plague. But no, in seriousness.
For people that don't know or are new to the podcast, Riker hates T. Ross. I love T. Ross.
He was my least favorite player. Not anymore. He was when he was on the Raptors. Turnover machine. But Chris Boucher, you're right. He has shown promise. He has gone in. He's hit shots cold. He's not warming up, right? He's getting no activity on the bench, and he comes in and he hits his threes, albeit they're wide open, and he's not sizable.
Some of them are contested. Some of them have been contested.
All right, he's a skinny, lanky guy. He hasn't been playing enough to show any sort of indication whether or not he can defend a legitimate power forward or center, but certainly the Canadian of me wants to see what this guy would be like out there playing, for the Raptors in legitimate minutes, and it's always fun to see just a guy that you're unfamiliar with, a bit of a fan favorite now get out there on the court. I don't know if the right call, practically speaking, is to give him Lorenzo Brown's money. I think one of the first things that you mentioned with, just saving it up and putting it into, a couple of 10-day contracts or wrapping it up into some sort of other deal, I think that would be, maybe a little bit more reasonable. But if they want to give Chris Boucher a couple of games, test him out, then I wouldn't be opposed to, if I saw him playing well, maybe giving him a year or 2 years and some sort of minimum deal.
Yeah, because they can convert he's currently on a 2-way contract, so he can play a limited number of games for the Toronto Raptors during the regular season, on this 2-way deal, because he's, not officially have a full roster spot. So with this now waiving Lorenzo, they could convert him to a full-time Toronto Raptor. He'd still play on the G League, but it'd be similar to what all the guys had the past few years with Siakam and all those sorts of players. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Boucher. I really want to see him get some run, because he's been big balling out here when he gets his run.
Yeah, the other big comment, though, before you say whatever you're going to say, is Jordan Loyd, right? That's a player that's getting a lot of talk, and the move could have something in relation to that.
Yeah, no, most definitely, because we really haven't seen too much of Jordan Loyd on the main team, but he's been dominant in the G League, and he's the type of player that we kind of need, because we've been struggling vitally for most of the season from behind the three-point line. Jordan Loyd, we didn't know much about him when he came in, but everyone said he was a phenomenal three-point shooter, and with his G League appearances and even in the preseason, he's shown that he can really stroke the ball. He can score. Now, he looks, in his couple of runs that he's had on the main team, he looks a bit out of control at times. He's had a few turnovers in the small minutes that he's gotten, but a guy that can stroke the ball, play solid defense, maybe there's potential there for him to get some run, especially with CJ Miles struggling. We need another one of those wing players, and Norm's been good, but he's still a bit inconsistent from the three-point line. Maybe this would be Jordan Loyd's chance to get some run and get that full NBA time.
Yeah, or just give him Lorenzo Brown's garbage minutes and see if he can work his way up in a better fashion than Lorenzo Brown had 2 years to work his way up and never really...
Yeah, he never
gave himself the opportunity to do that. Yeah. But it's hard to do. I have no obvious concept of what it's like to be that kind of player, the fourth string person who gets the last 2 minutes of the game. I don't know what that's like. It'd be interesting to speak to Lorenzo Brown and get his take on it. If you're listening, come on the pod, man. But,
well, he's been impressed. Like, he's inconsistent at the three-point line, but I think he did a solid job as the Raptors' fourth stringer. And, we should give some credit where credit's due. He obviously wasn't going to come in and necessarily shock the world, and we didn't need him to do that, but he was a phenomenal defender. Defensively, he really brought it on a night-to-night basis. He played really hard. He facilitated pretty good. It's just the jumper and the finishing around the rim really struggled, and most fans, that's what aggravates people so much when the shots aren't going in. But everything else he did on the floor, and he wasn't a huge negative when he was out there. So That's all you can ask for from a fourth string guy, but I'm sure Masai wants, especially with the point guards getting injured, he wants someone that could probably produce a little bit more on the offensive end.
Yep, for sure. All right, any more comments before we finish it up? Our little segment about the sad end of
the
Lorenzo
G League
Brown?
MVP.
Mm-hmm.
The G League MVP. No, it's unfortunate that players, this sort of stuff happens, but I'm sure Masai got a plan. He has something up his sleeve, and if not, we save some money on taxes, Riker. So that's always good as a franchise.
There's only 3 consistencies in life. Or is that how the saying goes? Something, death, and taxes.
Death, taxes, and JV3s.
And JV3s. There you go. All right, that's
Anyways,
it.
You guys are the best for making it this far. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all that cool stuff. We got all the news, all the updates, like Lorenzo Brown's waiving and stuff like that, all posted on there. So definitely check that out. We really appreciate you guys following on all that sort of stuff. Anyways, got the Hawks coming up tomorrow, Riker. Should be fun.
Oh, the Hawks. Woo.